Solv4X, all we are trying to do is aid electrification. There are a lot of fleet operators. They want to switch. They don't know how. They don't know how to connect to the utility, like which rules apply, which incentives apply. So the phase one is we help them out. And then once they are already on board with electrification, then imagine a fleet operator of 50 to 100 vehicles. It's a massive task to just charge them and discharge them. And our software automates that.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to CleanTechies the Podcast. This is episode 56 of the show. I'm your host, Silas Maynor, and I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to bring this show to you, and very, very thankful for you for tuning in again. And before we get started, we always ask, please, if this is your first time, please subscribe and turn on notifications. And then, of course, let us know any questions you'd like us to ask in the future or topics you'd like us to cover. Always glad to take feedback and have these conversations. And, of course, we want to make sure you're aware of our offer to you. So if you are a founder with specific needs in the climate tech space, we are glad to do anything we can to make introductions to either former guests on this show. Perhaps you're looking for certain partnerships. Maybe you're looking for to raise capital. Anything it might be, we're glad to help in any way we can. So feel free to reach out and we can have a quick discussion and see where we might fit. So with that, let's get into today's episode details. So today's conversation is with Rekha Sharma, who is the founder of Solv4X. And Rekha spent a number of years early in her career working for CAISO, which, for those of you unfamiliar, is the grid operator in California. And during her time there, she dealt with the issue of energy demand irregularities, the more renewable energy that came on the grid, and the more electrification that permeated the grid through things like EV charging, for example. And that experience led her to seek a solution for that problem, which is what she's doing now with Solv4X. And in this conversation, she walks us through the evolution of how she's got where she is, the steps she took to get there, and the first vertical she's focusing on, which is the EV charging space. And generally speaking, I really, really enjoy this conversation, especially from hearing in detail how she started, as this is possibly the hardest part of building a startup. It's kind of getting things off the ground and running. So really great show. Of course, as always, before we get into the show, we want to make a big thanks to our sponsors, NextWave Partners. NextWave are experts in talent acquisition, recruitment, and retention across the climate tech, renewables, ESG, and technology spaces globally. So if your team is growing or you're looking to make a career change, please consider reaching out to NextWave. You can do that through their website at next-wavepartners.com, or reach out to one of their consultants directly via their LinkedIn page, and one of them will reach back out to you and discuss your specific needs. So with that, let's get into the show.
All right, welcome to the show, Rekha. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. How are you, Silas?
I am not too bad. It's a nice day in New York City. I cannot complain. I'm always like nice days in New York. Sometimes it's not so nice. But anyways, I really, really appreciate you joining us today. I'm really excited for this. So I think what would be most helpful is if you want to just start off by giving us kind of an introduction to yourself and what you're doing.
Sure, and my pleasure joining. I'm joining from Toronto, so probably similar weather as yours. So a little bit about myself and my journey, so far. So I'm trained like bachelor's and master's in electrical engineering. Bachelor's I did from India, from Delhi College of Engineering, and for master's, I did from Texas. And then I have more than 10 years of experience in companies like Siemens, ABB, and California, state, mainly designing some kind of technology for the electricity grid, for the utilities, smart grid, so that the electricity is efficient, it's economical, and everyone gets the electricity when you turn that switch on. You get what you want. So that's how that's have been my focus so far.
Mm-hmm. And so how did you end up, I guess, getting into the climate tech space in general? And what was the impetus for you going down this route that you've gone to now?
I think through my educational background and I think in general, where the whole policy was around when I was in California state, California, to let you know, California has the maximum renewable resources like solar and wind. Any house which I think is built after 2007 has a solar rooftop. Everyone generates their own, power on their solar rooftop, and they use it. So it was in general through policy, and I just happened to be there in that organization where I saw that how slowly in last decade or 1.5 decade, the renewable industry just grew. Now, my interest got, I think, even further when I started more researching through IEEE. I published some papers where we were seeing the impacts of electrification of the transportation to the grid. So for everyone, if the if the car is going electric, I think for general public, they're seeing that you don't have to fill the gas, but you just have to hook it up to the, car like in your garage, and you can charge the electricity. Now, if you look at through my eyes, my responsibility was to make sure that if you need electricity at any point of time, you get it. Now we have to account for that extra electricity you would need for cars. So that's where, my interest grew into this field, and I did a lot of research, and I see that there is massive growth in adoption in just last year, and especially like we are talking into 2020, 2022, June, the gas prices are soaring. So it is a big pain point for people. So they are going to electrify their transportation. So it's not only residential. When I was studying, it was also commercial, even the school buses, even the construction companies. It's a big operational cost for them right now to just fill the gas. And if they electrify, it's going to be a big relief on that front. And of course, that social and environmental benefit is there, that you're not emitting anything like the tailgate emission that they say, that actually what smoke comes out of the vehicle is called tailgate emission. It's zero for electric vehicle, right? So just to give some stats, 30% of emission worldwide is through transportation. So the minute you switch to EV, that goes away. There is still some emission that if you're generating the electricity through non-renewable resources like coal and natural gas, there's still some emission. But then that industry, which is the electricity power generation industry, that's doing their part. So right now, 23 to 25% emissions are through those sources. And, when they switch to renewable sources like solar, like wind, again, there is a massive savings in emission. So the whole world, if, we all do our part, that's where the net zero would be possible. So I felt, my part is to kind of join those two so that the electrification is easy. Also, the generation side can also, do their part. So I'm kind of like marrying these two fields, and that's where Solv4X come in. And of course, we'll talk in a few minutes more about that.
Yeah, so I guess I'm kind of curious. This is always very fascinating to me. Is when you look back at your career, especially as you kind of developed in the early days, what would you say are the biggest things that you, I guess, didn't expect, or that kind of shaped how you saw things, and maybe things that you didn't necessarily intend, like, oh, I'm trying to go into this field so I can learn this, but then you learn these things and those kind of fuse together to create this unique knowledge that you have that you can go and build Solv4X. So can you kind of walk us through what some of those things were, and just maybe some of the early lessons generally in your early career?
Yeah, I think like when you're like 17 or 18 year, when you actually graduate from school and you start becoming engineer, I don't really feel that I really knew what I'm going to do. But then there was one turning point which I think made sure that I am in this field is the internships that I did. Actually, I walked through those aisles of coal power plant, like how the coal is actually come in through trains and how it's churned and how the steam. So the whole thing, I saw it with my eyes, and I felt that this is the real thing. When I was just learning it through books, honestly, I was not getting, like excited about it. And maybe not even understanding. But then I was lucky that I got some internships where I could actually go and see the things for myself. I could see how power is generated, although it was cold, but I saw it for real. I saw the rotor for real. I saw the generator for real and how big these things are. So that kind of excited me. And then it just started, like everything started making sense. When I came back to school and I read another theoretical chapter, it made sense. So that was I would say, the first time I actually got interested. Otherwise, it could be very well possible that 90% of my friends actually are not electrical engineer now. They move to more fascinating like computer science and all those kind of fields. Probably I would do the same. But I felt that it was always a purpose. I'll tell you an example of when I was doing my thesis in my master's. It was so relatable that I was in Texas. In Texas, there are a lot of hurricanes. And my whole study and my research was, if a hurricane hits, how are you going to get the electricity back? Because actually, for days and days, there is no power. Like people are out of power. There's no water, no electricity. How are you going to live, right? So I felt that I could just like really relate on all the research I'm doing, and it'll be useful, right? If I, not like really mocking anyone, like if let's say I am in a social media firm where my whole project is just to do a like button and dislike button, I feel that this is, creating a fully smart automatic plan for a hurricane saving software is more powerful. It might pay me less, as compared to the other one, but I felt there was a meaning and I stuck to it. And then I think over the years, the industry on its own became more aware. Earlier, like 50 years back, just to get electricity was good. 20 years back, to have more insights and more control, the smart grid part of it was good. Now, I see that the whole industry is going towards making it more sustainable. Earlier, if you're getting power from natural gas, from coal, it's okay. Because it's just, I think the evolution of us as engineers, as human, that we do just what is best in our, limitation. And now as a society, everyone is getting aware of sustainability and goals and emissions. And that's where the whole industry is also going. So in just last 10 years, I've seen massive growth in solar adoption. Like if you go down like in Arizona, Nevada, you'll see the farms and farms. Even in New York, if you drive around in New York, you'll see a lot of wind farms there, right? Because on the East Coast, I see there's more wind, less solar because, we're a little bit colder region. But still there are solar farms, but you'll definitely see one or the other wind turbine if you're going driving around. And the more people see, the less they are scared of it, because there are a lot of people who were scared of it initially, that is it going to damage of their community? Is it going to is there any damage for the birds, for the airplanes? So there was a little bit of pushback for wind farms initially, but I think people are now accepting. And now I think, especially for the wind generation side, we are using ocean. So you'll see a lot of wind farms are actually not using the land. They actually go to the ocean, and you'll see a lot of wind farms in the water. So that's a good use of land, I would say. Means we're not going to make a house there. Let's just make wind farms and get electricity.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's very fascinating. I always really enjoy hearing how people develop their career, because I think it's universally almost always the same, that people don't exactly know what they want to do with their early career. So they have an idea, and it's all theoretical until they get to, actually see and feel things. So I think that's interesting. Let's maybe shift over into, could you explain kind of in more detail, what exactly are you doing at Solv4X? And what specifically, you can dive deeper into the problem of what the problem is you're solving, and then how you're solving it would be really helpful.
Sure, I'll be glad, and I'll try to be as basic as possible. So in Solv4X, all we are trying to do is aid electrification. There are a lot of fleet operators. They want to switch. They don't know how. They don't know how to connect to the utility, like which rules apply, which incentives apply. So the phase one is we help them out. And then once they are already on board with electrification, then imagine a fleet operator of 50 to 100 vehicles. It's a massive task to just charge them and discharge them. And our software automates that. So it's going to be like a dashboard that you just see all your vehicles, and you can just manage all your charging through that. So we're simplifying the work, a day-to-day work for our fleet operator. While doing that, we are optimizing that their electricity bill is the lowest possible, because electricity rates are not same throughout the day. There are some times that there are like high congestion times where everyone is using the electricity. So the electricity rate tend to go higher. It's just, supply and demand. The more people want it, the rate goes high. And there are some times that it just more economical to use it. So our AI sense that, and we try to optimize on those parameters. Another thing that I feel is very crucial, and I think it'll be beneficial for the fleet owner, is, of course, when we are optimizing for price, we are also optimizing for the emissions. So what I said, you reduce some emissions the minute you electrify, and then you further reduce when you actually charge your vehicle when it's coming from green sources. So we have this greenness parameters that we have come up with, and we try to encourage people to use electricity for their electric vehicle charging when the source is source is green. One more thing which I feel is important in using these kind of softwares like Solv4X softwares is there is no human error there, that we discharge the vehicle all the way to zero or we overcharge. So you might have heard a lot in news that a bus just burned, electric bus got fired, electric, scooter or something got fired. It doesn't happen by on its own. It happens when the battery is not managed properly. Battery has a very good range of charging and discharging. If you go beyond that range is when it comes into this dangerous zone. Of course, there are a lot of softwares just to take care of the battery in, insights and more details. But what's with Solv4X, you can at least make sure that none of your crew member, who's also very new to this whole world of electrification, doesn't by mistake goes in that area where they can actually jeopardize the whole imagine the whole unit or the whole fleet. I think that land or wherever it's parked, you don't catch fire. So that's a intangible thing which the benefit which comes across which come along with using ththese kind of softwares. And I feel these are very important things to take care on. So in a nutshell, Solv4X is just building like an autopilot of EV charging, like a Hootsuite of EV charging. Yeah, that's about it.
So then, generally speaking, would the customers always be fleet operators usually, or are there other applications that this will then be used for? Because obviously this solution is essentially just measuring a lot of different things and deciding when to charge and when to discharge. And that could be vehicles, it could be other things, right? So are there going to be other applications that this gets applied to at some point?
Yeah, so means for now, being a startup, I had to focus somewhere and I'm focusing there. But then definitely it's scalable. It's scalable to residential. It's scalable to just battery units. It's scalable to microgrids like Powerwall does. Your home is a little nano grid. So it means the logic would stay the same. It's just use cases would just multiply. But as a company and for strategy of the company, we just decided to stick to one field and prove ourselves that we're good in it. And later on in future we scale.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess I'm also very curious to understand. Obviously, we understand the idea of how you came across this, but could you maybe walk us through the early days of actually starting the company and what was the real impetus and what pushed you over the edge to get going, and how were those early days?
Yeah. I can tell you where the idea germinated. And then when the idea germinated, it was 1.5 years of my inertia to actually take the plunge. So when I said I was in California state, just looking at those renewables coming on and all, I was sitting in control room for 10 years, 8 years, 9 years around, right? So when I'm sitting in the control room, I see how, the whole dynamics of electricity grid changes. It was so easy, let's say in 2012 and 2013 to manage the grid. Sundays used to be a cakewalk. Saturdays barely, like the whole grid know how it works, and there were really any issues, to be honest. Come 2015, 16, 2018 became like a nightmare for me to actually, I think I can tell you one day, 2019 or 20 December, every day me and my team would just watch and try to make sure that this, the Christmas from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., it was so bad that we used to just sit and kind of babysit the grid. And that got me curious. It's like, what is happening? Every time in summers when I'm going home around 6 o'clock, I'm getting calls from my control room. It's like, this is a problem, this is a problem. And I was managing a group where, some of my group member was responsible, but they could not solve the problem. And they're kind of escalating the problem for me. And every time I'm seeing 6 o'clock, there's a problem. Winters, 3 to 5, there is a problem. And that got me excited. It's like, there has to be something, because there is a pattern. It's always in the evening something is happening. And I'll tell you what was happening. I did a research and there's a paper around it. The thing what was happening was there was so much solar on rooftops for Californian people that they in the time, let's say from 9 or 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., they were not taking any electricity from the grid. They were kind of self-sufficient. Now, when the sun goes down, they want to go back to grid. And then all of a sudden, the demand just shoots up. It's like, I need to come back, right? And then for the grid, like imagine you have like 10 kids, right? Like in a school, you're just giving them food, right? So in the lunchtime, you have just 2 kids asking for food. So in the dinner time, you'll be like, okay, I just probably make for 3, 4 in case. But all of a sudden, all 10 comes back because whatever free lunch was there through the solar rooftop, it didn't come. And now I'm short because I was not prepared for this. There are means that, we can borrow from the neighboring states, blah, blah, blah. But then we had to really run for our resources. And it was happening more and more. And I've seen this pattern from 2012 to 2020 when it became a nightmare, right? And we started trying to see other problems, like there is more technical thing I can say, like demand response and all those kind of things that we were asking some loads that can you just lower down, like in those 10 kids, you'll be like, can you just go to the neighboring states, or can you just not eat right now, give me 1 hour and I'll give you the food, right? Like we had to just manage. If we cannot increase the supply, we have to just offset the demand. And that's what we were doing. And it became really a pain point. So coming back to the technology side of it, I started researching, and now I know the problem. It's this net load, which is coming because of the solar rooftop. And then I was like, okay, this is not stopping. This is going to only get worse. More people are going to get solar on their rooftop. Okay, solar is only one thing. How about all these electric cars? California has the maximum adoption rate in EV for the whole America, for the whole US. It's pocketed around San Francisco and LA back in 2021. But now, this year, like most of the people who are buying a new car are buying a Tesla or are buying some EV car. So now imagine, I'll just give you a parameter. Like if I have 2 electric cars which are charging in my garage, it's just doubling the demand, right? Like, it's like, imagine the calories. You might eat salads, you might eat this, you might eat a bread and all, and you just eat 1 chocolate cake and then the whole calorie goes up, right? That's what this EV is. You have TVs, you have fridge, you have these mixer grinders, all these electricity resources one big resource is a thermostat, like your AC. And then the bigger fish is going to be EV. And if you have fast charger, it's going to suck all that power, right? Just like that chocolate cake, your whole calorie charge just jumps. And that's what is going to happen with electric vehicle charging. And now again, this evening problem that I used to get in the grid, it will have like all the time for me. Like if so many people are charging, like where I'm going to get, and then what is this order of it? Like right now, we are letting anyone charge at any point of time, right? Can we keep doing that? Probably not. And that's what Solv4X is doing. We're kind of managing this whole thing. We are trying to distribute the load. We're trying to distribute this demand to the times when when the demand from other resources are low. Like it's 6 o'clock when you're really going home. The house is probably already hot. You really need that AC, and it's a need. I don't want you to sweat and like charge your car, right? You rather just come, relax, watch your TV, have the temperature in the house the way you want, and how about you charge the car later on, right? So that's where the idea came from. And then as a pure business case analysis, when I did all this, I felt the maximum value proposition is coming for the fleets, and I just stuck with them for now. But means this is the whole experience. And when I just saw the rate by which we are going, I feel just in a couple of years we're going to be in trouble. And I could have just left it as a research paper and publish it, get some good reviews on it, and that's about it. But then there was something in me which got stuck. And also I'm like really passionate about cars. So I was the one who actually stood in, I think it was 2016 when they like pre-launch of Tesla Model 3. I took off from office and I stood in line for 6-7 hours. I pre-ordered Tesla without even looking at it, without them launching it. And the same night, in the nighttime, I think 9 o'clock, they launched it. And I was so glad I've already ordered that thing. So I'm anyways passionate about cars. And when I can, take my career and the passion for the cars together, then I felt it's worth pursuing. And then I think it's not also easy to just switch. Like there are so many things you have to do. Personally, I think there was a time that I was not able to sleep with this idea, right? Like it was just brewing so much. And I felt as if it's an opportunity and I'm just leaving it, right? So the decision to actually quit a job, which is very, stable job, and then start researching, learn how to, means I'm not an entrepreneur. I've never started a company before. None of my other partners have, right? We are all awesome engineers, but then how do I start a company? What is VC? What is this funding? What is this? I didn't know anything, right? And that's what the time is going. I did my MBA in entrepreneurship and innovation from Rotman School, just because I didn't want to just half-heartedly do something. So I learned finance, and I learned accounting, I learned whole business plan, like, how to actually do all these things. So now I feel I'm prepared. I'm a good engineer. I'm trained by a good business school. And in this process, actually, I made a lot of good contacts. And Rotman School just is, like it's the best school in this area in Toronto, where just I can get good connections, good advice. So this was planned. I'm sure I could have done easy way, not do the MBA, not just do that, keep doing the job. But I just chose it this way. And I don't know if I could be committed to do it any other way, like half-heartedly, like doing a job and doing this.
Yeah, no, I think that's quite fascinating. Obviously, the evolution of when somebody gets this idea of something that's kind of, like you said, keeping you up at night, and you just have to go for it. I think that that's the sign that you have to make it. But I think that's also really interesting because I think your background As a recruiter, I work with a lot of engineers who have kind of similar types of background. And I would say that generally speaking, many of these engineers are not people who want to take risks, right? They want to have a plan. They want to have stability, right? That's why they work at CAISO. So I think it's fascinating that you made that jump, and it's interesting to see how you did the MBA to kind of maybe get a little bit more stability, because you knew, like, you had more confidence that, listen, I can do this because I've actually got the connections now and all these items. So I think it's very fascinating. I also find it very interesting that people like yourself who have the experience working in these, in these companies, in these, usually considered bureaucratic and slow companies, are actually the people who probably see the most issues to solve. And we need people who are in those kind of stable companies who see the problems to go then start companies that can solve it, right? So this is fascinating to me. I want to know a little bit more about once you decided, like, okay, listen, I'm going for this, and you were going through the MBA. How was it to find partners to do this with you? How did you identify, hey, I'm going to need this type of person and that type of person? Could you just walk us through that thought process and how you managed that?
I don't know if I've already solved the problem of finding the ideal partner, but I think mostly I have, because I'm at peace with my team right now. So, to begin the journey, I did speak to all my friends, to be honest. Means I called in at least 20 of my, associations through my previous jobs or whatever, because I felt they would be good partners. But I feel that initial just 1 month of just talking to people, they're so involved in their own job, low risk. They have family, some kind of responsibility. I didn't really get much. Means I got a lot of support, like, we'll support you and all, but then someone would actually jump the guns and do it full time with me. No. Right. And then I don't blame them, because I've been asked by some other friends when I was in ISO, and I was so happy in my job, and it's well-paid job, and I feel, good. So I won't jump too. But then it's just this idea struck me, and it's just like, making me do that, making me switch country. Like, I actually moved from California to Toronto just to do this, because I was on the H1 visa when I was in California. And I couldn't start a company at that time, right? Means there were so many limitations that I didn't want to do it. And being a Canadian, I can be jobless for some times and all sorts of things, right? Like, it just frees me up the minute I come to Toronto. And I did that. But then to find a partner, I didn't. I had some helps from my friends, like that if some work comes, I can talk to them, some technical advices, some offloading of work, like part-time. So all that help came, but then I didn't have a strong partner. I just started myself. And then I did enroll in YC, like Y Combinator, startup classes. And I think I got very good advisory board from them, where, very esteemed ladies who have done this. I will not call out names, but they actually said this. And this is the thing that I was missing. I was trying to find a partner. And they just said, if you're not getting the co-founder, just start yourself. You'll find it somewhere. But then if you don't start and you just wait for a co-founder, you'll never start. It just was a silver lining, because probably I was waiting for this kind of advice from someone. And I got it through one of the webinars I attended for YC. And then I started. One good thing is being associated with University of Toronto. There are so many incubators with University of Toronto. So within 2-3 months, I was part of their engineering incubator, and which I am still. I'm part of them. They provide me, with funding. They provide me with advisory board, through investors, through lawmakers, because I didn't know how to file a patent. I didn't know how to do any kind of IP, protection. And just to be able to talk to an IP lawyer every week is an asset which comes in just because I was part of U of T. right? So all this investment that I did being an MBA student of Rotman is now paying off. So I think it was September 2021 when I, full-time started, and January 2021, I was already part of Hatchery. It's called U of T Hatchery. And they were like, then they started giving me those checklists, right? Like, you need a slide deck, you need this one, you need this. So once someone tells me you need this, and I can do it, it's just someone telling me what are the minimum thing, what is the minimum viable product, how do you make it, giving some samples so that I can, germinate in my head and I do my thing. So the whole structure came into my life where as soon as I got into Hatchery, and I thank them for that. And of course, like for developing any tech, you need capital to begin with, right? Like my product is so data intensive, so much like just the storage of cloud, like it was adding up. And then it's so useful when I get these kind of supports from my incubator. That's there. And I think with them, when I got associated with them, we got selected for the NEST program. And then they actually helped me form the team also. They were, I was hesitant to talk. They kind of guided me like, go publish here. And I was not really keen on that idea. I was like, it should come naturally. Why should I have to go and, publicize looking for a co-founder? And they said, no, it's okay. It happens all the time. Like, that kind of confidence came. And actually I found a good team. And I had this in my mind. Just when I started alone, I started talking to people. One good advice that I got from my friends and family who have done this thing, like who have companies who are like right now, like unicorns. So I spoke to them, and the first advice they gave me is like, talk to people. Don't just try to make something very secretively. You're not doing any like, like CIA mission here. Talk to people. And the more you talk to people, the more validation you'll get on your idea. And then you'll get help. And as a, like to start in my position, as you said, like, coming from a very comfortable bureaucratic job, it's very difficult to know how to navigate all this. And I used to call people 30 minutes interviews, and they used to tell me like, do this, do that, go talk to this person. I got so many references to people who actually validated my idea, right? Means they are advisors and investors in the same space. So when they're saying it's commendable what you're doing, but then just polish this value proposition again, right? And these professors who are like my wise teen, I spoke to him and I told him, then he said, you have to just tweak your market segmentation like that. That's where this whole thing starts becoming reality. And right now, after almost 7-8 months, when I go and I try to pitch in front of a customer, I see that they get excited and I am getting some value for them, right? And the idea is same, the technology is same, which is coming from my mind, but this whole value proposition, customer segmentation, talking to the real customer is coming from all my help from either Rotman or Hatchery or my network. When they met me and they gave me like, brutal advices on what is wrong and what is not. Nobody told me the idea is wrong. Like nobody told me that this is not the problem. But then like, it's problem for whom? I was talking to wrong people. I started talking to utilities. And when I spoke to 2 or 3 and they were not showing me any interest, that clearly tells you that you're talking to wrong people. If this is a problem, it is a problem for fleet managers. It is a problem for, someone who wants to electrify, but he doesn't know how to. If this is the problem of maybe, a small player that he doesn't even probably have a budget to go and talk to these kind of, big organizations. So that's the gap that you have to fill in, right? You always have to find that crack that you are filling in, because there'll be always competition. There'll be always very successful players in your field, and you don't need to go head with them. You have to just steer your way out. And that's the learning that I got from all the talks that I had with my mentors and my advisors.
Mm-hmm. That's it. That's interesting. I think that's I really appreciate the detail there. I'd be keen to understand So just a short question here is, what were the most helpful items that you received or things that you received from the incubators that you were involved in and the accelerators?
I think one is this structure, because I have no background in actually being an entrepreneur. This is the first time entrepreneur. I don't know I need a one pager. To be honest, like till 2 months back, I didn't know that I need a one page and how it looks like, right? Like the sample of it. On the web, everything is there on the web, but I just have to go and hit the nail, right? These 4 things you need. I was talking about these things so much, but I never wrote down a business plan. So they said, first thing, write down. Even if it's version 0, it might change every month as you're talking to people, write it down. Don't make it elaborate, 10 pages, write it down. And that they gave me the structures, right? Like they gave me what all has to be component. So that structure came in, that practice came in. Every week I practiced to pitch, every week, right? So like, and the people that I'm speaking, like, I'm pitching to, they have done some, credible amount of work in their industry. They are either successful businessmen or they're successful investors. So I am talking to the people that I really have to sell my product to, right? Like if I want to go to a VC round, I will be probably talking to one of the VCs. And if one of the VCs is my advisor and he's been in the industry for 5-10 years, he would tell me is like, this BS doesn't go to, like we will think it's BS. So get it out, right? How to actually present your pitch so that you get investors' attention, right? So these nitty-gritties, how would I know? Like only an investor would know that. And if one of the investor is my advisor and he's giving me 1 hour every week because of this incubator, otherwise there's no way he'll talk to me every week, 1 hour, right? The lawyer, like last year, I knew that I need a patent and I need some kind of IP protection before I launch. I try to do this myself. It's a nightmare. I've never filed a patent myself, like where to go, which form to fill, how to do copyright. It was a nightmare, to be honest, right? So, and then again, every week I get 30 minutes with the lawyer who's just done this for their life, right? 15 years experience just doing an IP for a company. And I'm able to get to them at a very discounted price, funded by them, right? Means otherwise talking to a lawyer is $500 per hour, right? Like all your invest capital will just go talking to a lawyer. But then I'm getting it for almost free, to be honest. And then their vision is like, we had to structure, right? Like, is it only IP? If it's only IP, it's a different way. If it's disruption, it's a different. So then I'm able to strategize my company's, trajectory with these people. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I would say access to these people. And that's why you need to actually go for the correct incubator. There's so many of them. That's one thing you have to be very, very about. Anyone who's starting a company, I'm like, every week I'm getting an email about an incubator these days. So you should know which one are you going for and why. And there are a lot of people who are just trying to get into your back, trying to, means if basically fly when you fly, right? Like if you fly, they'll just get a share of it. But then are they going to actually contribute in your journey or not? That's what you have to see. Are you like, even if I get into an incubator and the advices that I'm getting, I don't need them, or they are from a different field, it's useless. So they'll just waste your time and you'll actually miss out on the right opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm also part of a serial, like this incubator serial, which is Creative Destructive Lab. Their whole thing is they actually take on the scientists and engineers who are very good in their engineering world, but they don't know how to commercialize their research, which is me, like, which is totally me, right? Like I can, if you ask me to create a software, I'll create it in 1 week. I'll have the design, right? Means all day I can think about this. Now, how will I sell it? I don't know. What things I should say so that someone buys it from me? I'm confused all the time. And they give me best help to do that. And just getting associated, with these kind of, uh, I think, help, right, is very crucial for any startup. If you have already started a company before, you're the second time entrepreneur, I think you can skip all this. But the first time entrepreneur, you have to go through this. And I am in clean tech. There is a lot of grants out there, but then I just don't know how to encash it. And I still don't know. I got some grants, luckily, uh, till now, but I'm sure there is much more, and I'm not able to crack it so far. So I'm part of something called Innovation Factory, which is in, like, very close to Hamilton. They, like, I'm talking to them, and they're kind of guiding through making connections on, like, a potential pilot. We are trying to do a potential pilot with, means there is a talk with one of the municipalities, because in nutshell, the dashboard that I was talking about, if all the participants are doing like 5% for a city, it's such a big thing, right? So city is interested to see that kind of statistics, and they actually give a lot of incentives these days. If you need to electrify your fleet, means in New York, you can actually do it at 80% discount. You can have your electrification, you can have your infrastructure like chargers installed almost for free, right? But then, does all the New York people know that? I hope so. But then if they don't know, it's our job to educate them, right? And we will reach out and we will educate them and we'll move. And it's also a very long transition because of the wait times. The one customer that I just spoke to, like, 2 days back, we have they have like 100 vehicle fleet, and they want to electrify. The problem is they don't even have all the options, right? Like, there's no snowblower alternative, right? So they don't have alternatives. If they have alternatives, we have put in order, and it's going to be probably 1 or 2 years of wait, right? Means this is how much they have to wait to get the vehicle they want.
Wow, that is a long time so that's got to be an issue that has to be solved as well too at some point, I would assume. I'm very I'm very curious. I want to make sure we have time to go into this. What is the process looking like right now with doing fundraising? So is it mostly through grants? Do you talk to a lot of angel investors? Like, where do you look to? And what have you've already mentioned a few of the items you've learned from them, kind of them giving you feedback on your pitches, but what is this like? Are people generally quite interested? Do they have certain major questions for him? I'm very curious to understand what this process is like.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I haven't actually started fundraising, like, seriously. I'm just gathering all the facts, how to do it. And I think July and August is when I want to do, because before that, till now, I was learning about this whole world, and B, trying to talk to the customers. I want to first kind of get some customer interest before I go to angels, right? So that they're comfortable investing their money, right? Means it's their hard-earned money, probably personal money. Some of the angels invest personal monies in this. So when I just blabber about my idea and how excited I am about it, business wise, to be very, business oriented, they won't care, and they should not care, right? But if I say I have 5 customers lined up, they have signed this LOIs, like letter of interest, that they are interested, can you please give me money so that I can quickly, deliver that promise? Then probably they'll be like, okay, this girl is talking business now, because she can see that people are showing interest, which they are now. From last 2 months, we are just getting customer to sign up on this, and now they are. So I have it. Now I have a need to actually build something and get a capital to do that. Because with bootstrapping and with IP and all, I can build, but it'll be very slow. My customer is not going to wait that long, right? I need to probably hire a few people. I need to, there's capital for my technology, which is actually a lower part, but hiring people, I have good three people right now that we can code. Like I'm a machine learning, data analyst myself. Like I can do the data part, like algorithms and AI part. I can do it myself. I have a backend engineer. I have a front end engineer. So that itself is a good team that I have built up now. But now there are still pieces. Like just yesterday, we were like, we need a UX engineer. We need some kind of, someone to do our UX so that we can develop some. So, there'll always be one or two people here and there which we need, and so that we can like do things fast, right? And we make something like a world-class project. If I try to do that graphic designer thing, I don't want to do like a sloppy job, right? So for a customer, so and it's going to take time, right? So all this is good if you're just showing your MVP, your what is going to like your non-functional MVP, which we have done. Now, when it comes to the real thing, we would need angels, right? Like we would need pre-seed money, because I can, like just last week, me and my team were discussing like, okay, this guy, he's interested. Like we have a potential customer, he's interested. We are giving him whatever we can, but like if we can just give him the whole package, he will never leave us, right? Like we have a loyalty of 5 to 10 years with this customer. That's the retention period. Till whenever he means we screw up or they move on, and it's like till they exist, they can use this. So that's the retention period of our product. But now to gain more and more such customers, we need to scale. And I think now is when I am, and then next I think in 1-2 months, this is going to be my thing. And just like I think 2 days back, and I started literally making connections with all the angels which are doing clean tech investing, because I realized even in the VCs, they have these, like specialized area. And I don't want to get money from just anyone. I want to get money from them, the people who specialized in either auto tech, clean tech, because they also will actually, a lot of advice will also come in, which is an intangible thing. Like money is one thing, but then if those things, when I was going and talking to my advisors, and they just kind of polished my business plan, the same thing happens when you get a good investor. And I'll have to find those people and try to talk to them. That's my next next target, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating. Obviously, it makes sense, the method you're taking. I think that this is very helpful to understand for people who are in this early stage. There's a lot of people solving problems out there, so I'm assuming this is very valuable for them. A couple of things, we've only got a little bit of time left. I'm curious on your thoughts of, in the talent market, with the advance of this complicated technology, things like this, like you mentioned earlier, how a lot of people who are fleet operators are new to this, right? So their technicians may not be familiar with how long to charge a battery, et cetera. So this brings the idea up of, what are your thoughts on the future, or maybe areas in general, just of how the talent market will kind of subdivide with specialists who are, very, very technical in nature and kind of understand one area very well, and create maybe likely an AI enabled software that can support other people who are specialists in other things, or just generalists, right? Because we can't necessarily, as technology advances, I would assume we can't expect everybody in the society to become 5 to 10% literate in all of the areas that are going to be innovated in. So do you have any thoughts on the expansion of this and how this might look as kind of talent grows and these new innovations happen?
Like I can tell my perspective whenever I design things. I try to, I am in that way, like I completely remember what Steve Jobs used to, say, that all this technology and the AI, the complexity should be on the other side of the computer. When you see the screen, like my 2-year-old girl can operate an app because it's so intuitive. And that's the real success of an innovator, that it should be very simple. So keeping that in mind, when I'm designing my, software, I want to make it so simple that anyone can just log in and should be able to navigate. Okay. Uh, if we're successful in doing that, and that's the whole purpose of Solv4X, right? I don't want this fleet operator to understand the electricity market. I understand electricity market. Let me make it easy for you, right? And once they use this technology, they don't have to. All they need to do is just drive their car to their whatever construction business or school buses or whatever they were doing before, and just do that. And there should be the other part, which is like somebody like me. I'm sure there'll be 10 other people who should create those technologies so that the other world doesn't have to learn it. Why everyone has to learn? Like, everyone can use Apple. Can they write code? Can they do any hardware design? No. Can they design the chip like NVIDIA does? No. And why do we have to? Like, can you go and do a job in Intel? No, you can just do your job. If you are a financial analyst, you just literally understand what that whole FP&A, that software looks like, and that's about it. You are not going to code that thing. Somebody else is doing that for you, right? So what I'm seeing in this whole like ecosystem is, of course, the conventional drivers like you and me. Like, we used to drive, I don't know if you remember, like our parents used to have that stick. You remember those stick? And then it just became automatic car. But then still we were just driving. This whole one component just goes away, but then we're still driving from A place to B place. Same thing now. The engine got replaced and the battery came in the car, but I'm still driving. Why do I care? The only thing is, we need to learn how to fill gas. We used to go to petrol pump and put that gas, and then we should know how to do check in, check out, and that's about it. Now it just changes that we need to go put in a socket, and then there'll be an app that you just do that. So the ramping up to switch this technology should be minimal on the consumers. It should not be a burden to them. And other people like my type of people should make that journey easy. If you do not make that easy, there will never be a mass adoption, right? Like, if Apple is so difficult to use, will my grandmom use it? No. Like, I'll tell you, my mom loves Apple. She's like, I just like it. It's so easy. And she's like, I know it doesn't like overheat, the battery lasts well, this, that, this. She can tell you 10 reasons why she doesn't want to switch to any other phone. But she cannot even work on a computer, but she loves that phone, right? So that's how this whole ecosystem of engineers and non-engineers should be. And let them do the job they do. They are truck drivers. They are putting groceries for like PepsiCo, right? Like, they're doing their job. Let them do the job. And the transition should be seamless to them, right? And what I see in this is, definitely there will be no oil changes, right? Like, electric vehicle doesn't know. So if someone just specializes on that, then that person would be repurposed somewhere. But a driver who's driving that car, for them, their job is unchanged, just a little flavor changed a little, but their core job is same. But if your core job is just getting obsolete, I would say that's the time to repurpose real fast. Because I was attending one of the state discussion where mayors and like all the political people were there in US. Their main tension is this, that we don't want to obsolete these skill sets. Like, what will my car garage person will do now? If you don't want to go change your oil every 6 months, and if you don't need those tests every 2 years to get your your car certified because it's electric, now what will he do? His job will go slow. So that's where these kind of people should be smart enough, and they can see the trend, like how I saw the trend in my career, and I can see they should also see the trend. If they want to ignore it, we don't want to repeat that. You remember, like, our parents talk about that manufacturing, thing. Like there were so many factories in America. Now they're not because people outsourced. And then is it coming back? Our presidents tried a lot, and it's sad that it moved. But for businessmen, they're gonna do what they like, and we can probably repurpose a little bit. But then I don't see that a lot would change unless your core job is just these things. For user, I don't think it's a big thing. It does give a lot of opportunity for newer generation, because I think newer generation just understands this change. They're more fluid, I would say. And that's where, like even me, like I was like in the middle of 30s. If you're trying to learn new things, I would say I may not be a normal middle 30 girl who just leaves everything and start over, leaves everything and start over. And now I have realized this in myself, that I just like it, right? Like some people like to be comfortable. I like to be on the edge. And it's just my purpose, means my character, like, it just excites me. But then does it excite everyone else? Probably not. And if it doesn't in this age, it could be a problem.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting the way you've laid this all out. I think it's something that's probably overlooked, but it also ultimately is going to be a cause of whether success happens or not in terms of the making the user experience very simple. And because you can't change an entire group of consumers' habits, right? You might change them slowly with minor changes, like every time. I always recall every time Snapchat or Facebook would come up with an update where one button changes or some kind of feature change. Everybody complains about it for a week or two, and they're used to it, right? So I think that's fascinating that you brought this up. I have just one last thing I really want to get your comment on that you mentioned earlier was you had an internship where you're able to see hands-on how things operated in the power plant. Do you have any comments or thoughts on how, or maybe observations that other companies are doing on how the professional world that's already in their career and maybe kind of combining with the educational space can create more of these opportunities where people get opportunities to actually see how these things work, right? These are critical pieces of how infrastructure works, et cetera. I mean, there's so many examples of it. It's not just power plants, right? How can we create more opportunities for people to actually see how these things work at a younger age so they can start to really kind of think about, okay, beyond theory, this is how it works. And this is something I'm fascinated by. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I'm working with at least, 5 to 7 universities, working with their professors, helping the students to do a capstone project. Like when I was young, I was growing up, the internships were the things. But now most of the universities, the last semester, it's not like co-op, it's a project that you do with a company. So it'll be like a sub portion of the work that I'll be doing, but the students get to learn new skills, they get to see how the company works, right? And they're called capstone projects. And I think most of the universities in at least North America, I can talk about North America, they are doing this. I get requests all the time, but then at the same time, as a firm who's trying to grow, I can also accommodate only so much, right? So it means this teaching is always been my thing. I love to teach, but it's just time constrained that I'm not able to put up just a course on the things that I know. Hopefully, the minute I get some room, I will do that. But before that, in my own capacity, what I'm doing is I am working with these professors, good universities like UC, New York, one in Arizona, like all the state university. I work with them and work with their professors in data analytics. If someone is there, means I can always give my subset of my project and let them just, play with it, right? And I meet with the students 1-2 times in a month, 30 minutes. Talk to them, right? Like, what are their questions? What are their difficulties? And kind of hold their hand to finish that project. So I'm not their professor, but I'm professor for one semester, right? And I But I feel now that I have to scale up. I may not be able to do it for next 2-3 months, right? Because it is time consuming. If I am meeting with my students regularly, I plan their homeworks, I plan their targets and everything. So it takes time, but I'm just doing it for fun and for my own satisfaction that I'm kind of giving back to the society and giving back to these. There are a lot of people who have careers and they want to switch to data analytics. So, I'm kind of helping them. They know how the industry works. They just don't know how the AI world and machine learning and data science works. And I'm trying to bridge that gap for them. But every company will have limitation on time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which now I have become a little bit selective, that I will probably work with only 3 universities, maybe 1 hour, 1 or 2 hours in a month where I'm actually doing a face-to-face.
Mm-hmm.
And of course,
yeah,
it's still 5 hours of commitment from me, right? And that's a big commitment for someone who's trying to scale the
yeah, exactly.
thing.
Yeah, I just think that I think there's plenty of opportunities also for larger companies, right? Where I recall the idea of going and doing field trips and viewing things, right? But a field trip for a day really doesn't kind of do justice to how things operate. I wonder if there can be more partnerships where kids can come in, during high school and, have certain opportunities to work for a week and see how things are going. Because I think that having that real world experience also helps them, if I'm not mistaken. I have 7 younger siblings, so it's always like they're still going through high school. So it helps them to understand the reasons why they're learning the things. And I think that allows them to really dig into things rather than it all being theoretical and having no idea why they're doing it. So any final comments you want to make?
No, I think, thank you, for having me. And I think definitely if you're listening and you are another young budding entrepreneur, do connect. We can learn from each other. And of course, whatever I can, share, I can share. If you are listening and you're VC in the climate tech, definitely I'll be reaching out to you. And if you're a budding student who want to learn, as I said, about this capstone project, as soon as I can, there might be some courses around where you can just, these are the things that I don't even try to make money, to be honest. It's something that I want to give back to the society, and I keep doing that. So anything I can help in these young budding engineers or even high schoolers, I've always find time for them. And, but if you are in that bracket, I'm sure you can get help, but ask for help. Don't just sit and assume somebody was going to come help. Like, I feel that no question is a bad question. No question is a silly question. Just keep asking, keep learning about the world. And that process of learning should never stop. Even if you're in high school or you're 40 or 50 or 60, you're about to retire from your career, but you should be just curious as a human being. And I think, not going too much in the, preaching things. But then I think, thank you so much for your time. And it was so, so nice to just talk about the journey. People want to know what the product is, but nobody asked me where this thing came to my mind and how I was losing my sleep and what all I had to do to come here, switching, leaving a job, leaving a country, and relocating the whole thing in the middle of pandemic was very daunting. I don't sometimes my friends used to ask, are you sure you're doing it? And the answer was always yes from within, because I totally believed in that, and I still do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really fascinating story, and I'm super, super excited to see what you continue to do. And obviously, again, to reiterate, anybody listening who thinks that they could help you, please reach out to her or myself. Glad to make introductions in any way. But thank you so much for coming on, and we'll have you next time.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode with Rekha. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please do, of course, share your thoughts. What did you think of the show? Definitely share with anybody who might find it interesting. Perhaps somebody who might want to partner with Rekha, I think it's always very important to have a lot of collaboration in these efforts. So please do reach out to Rekha via LinkedIn, and you can learn more about Solv there as well. And if you are joining us for the first time, as always, please do subscribe and turn on notifications. It really does help us to grow and to help you to get this content. Of course, if we can get a review as well, would be really appreciated on whatever platform you listen on. And then if you're interested in becoming a sponsor or collaborating in some way, creating a partnership, you can feel free to reach out to me. My email can be found in the description. And if you want to get more involved, you can check out the Slack community we've created or follow our LinkedIn page to interact with other folks there in the climate tech space. And then a quick note on our next episode, it will be with Jason Cardiff, the founder and CEO of CleanO2, which is, in essence, it's a carbon capture technology company that upcycles the carbon offtake that they capture in their HVAC equipment, and they upcycle it into soap. And then from the proceeds of that soap, those sales, they kind of reinvest that back into the business to continue advancing their technology, their carbon capture technology and effectiveness. And for me, this conversation was I really enjoyed this, in particular because Jason comes from a blue-collar background and has created this incredible company, which to me is just an amazing example of how climate tech is for everybody and not just kind of any elites or anything like that. So really enjoyed this conversation and looking forward to releasing that soon. But with that, thank you again so much for listening to CleanTechies the Podcast, and we will see you next time.